Hey everyone, it's Michael here. I thought we'd just do a 15 or 20 minute little meditative ride today. Just a chance to kind of be in the body, get the heart rate up a little bit, feel our muscles working, calm down the stress response, practice our form, all of that. So join me. This will be a purely meditative ride. And we're going to just kind of have this beautiful meditative music playing the whole time. So let's go ahead and get on our bikes and just adjust your resistance so that it's as light as you can possibly get it. And those of you that are on regular indoor cycles that usually have that fixed wheel, you know how the wheel is locked to the pedals so you can feel that momentum. That's how almost all the spin bikes are made. And that means that momentum can propel your legs along in the circle if you let it. And we want to not let it. Now, I'll show you something. You may know this already, but the bikes we use here at RevoCycle are like a bike you would ride outside. They have a freewheel. So behind me, that wheel is still spinning right now, just like if I were coasting along a road on a bike. So that freewheel pedaling of this bike forces me to make full circles using the muscles of my legs. And if I have the resistance way too low, the wheel goes faster than my feet, and I got nothing to push against. It's kind of like if you're in a really easy gear going fast on your bike, you got nothing to push against. So we love our freewheel bikes for this reason. It forces us to always have resistance on. So I'm adjusting right now so that I have just a tiny bit of resistance on. And you with your fixed gear bike, with that fixed gear between the pedals and the flywheel, go ahead and get light resistance. Make sure you have at least some resistance on at all times. And this is the perfect time to start thinking about that as we're just warming up our legs. So I've adjusted so I have very light resistance and I don't feel like there's any real discomfort in the muscles of my legs. And I want you to then turn your legs slowly like I am. Just nice and slow. And the idea is that we're just going to start paying attention to our body position and our muscles. So let's start with a quick scan of our body position. I always start at the base of the skull. And I notice if my neck is hanging down or if it's arched. And we want it to be nice and neutral. And then I try to make sure my neck is aligned with my spine so we have a nice kind of stable, relaxed, neutral spine with the neck mostly in alignment with the spine. The result should be that you have about a 5 or 10 foot gaze ahead of you. Makes sense? So when those are aligned and we're properly situated on the bike, we naturally just have 10 foot gaze or so right out there. Good. So after checking the neck and the spine for neutrality and alignment, let's go to the shoulders. What we want are relaxed shoulders, and the way I refer to it is to keep them away from the ears. The shoulders are down and relaxed. And you can maybe shake out an arm to make sure that those shoulders are relaxed. And now we travel down the arms, making sure that we have a little bit of bend in the elbow, just a little. As opposed to the locked out arms and the shoulders up. I'm sure you've seen that position before in your spin classes. Locked arms, shoulders up, maybe head down, like that. I'm encouraging you to not do any of that. head up, neutral spine and neck. Shoulders down, elbows are slightly bent. And now look at my hands. You notice how they're just resting on the bar? You see my fingers? Just wiggle the fingers. I'm just resting on the heel of my hand on the handlebars. I'm not gripping it. I'm not fighting the bike. I'm one with the bike. The handlebars are where I rest. A very small percentage of my weight. Nice. Now, we have our shoulders, arms, spine, and neck in a good position. Let's notice something. Do you notice that all the movement is happening from my hips down? This is what I call decoupling the upper body and the lower body. Decoupling the lower body from the upper body so that the pedal stroke is almost completely independent of my upper body. And I'll show you a little bit later. One of the tests I do is, could you hold a champagne glass without spilling it as you're pedaling? If you could, that means you're pedaling beautifully from the hips down. Now let's all just close our eyes and take a nice deep breath, feeling the belly exhale. Let the belly be relaxed. You don't need to hold it in. In fact, I would encourage you to not hold it in. We don't want to tighten up those abdominal muscles, because when those exterior abdominal muscles are tight, the diaphragm, which is below those, has a hard time expanding to bring air in. So it's always okay to just let that belly relax. Your core muscles are engaged. You need not worry about that. You know they're engaged because your upper body is not flopping around like those balloons at the gas station, right? So your core is engaged. The abdominals are relaxed so we can breathe through the diaphragm. And then finally your hips are just settled beautifully on the saddle. There's a lot, right? Cycling is a beautiful practice. And that's how I think of it, as a practice. There's so much to pay attention to. All of that can be our focus. All of that can allow us to be in the moment. Tuning into all of these things. Okay, the pedal stroke. One of the best things you can do is to think about scraping mud off the ball of your foot. That scraping motion through the bottom part of the pedal stroke engages the calves and the hamstrings. Pull through. See if you can just pedal slowly with light resistance here and let that all sink in. Just take 10-15 seconds to notice all that. And this whole time, we've been working at a very light level, so our muscles are getting warmed up, and our heart rate is picking up a little bit. Look at the fingers. Check the neck. I do this constantly throughout class. I'm constantly monitoring my body position. It's very much like in a yoga class. For the same reasons. Makes sense? Okay, let's add a little bit of resistance now. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Just enough that you feel it in the muscles. And let's bring our leg speed up to that which we might use on a flat road. So you see now I've accelerated my legs to about 90 RPM. as the legs accelerate, you might notice a tendency to stab at the pedals with your quadriceps. You might notice a tendency to stab and let the wheel pull your leg around so that you end up doing a stair-step kind of fashion pedaling stroke. But let's be mindful of pulling through the bottom. That helps us create that beautiful full circle pedal stroke. It's a beautiful moment now to notice your breath picking up just from that increased pedal speed. How are your hips doing? Are they settled on the saddle? Are you pedaling with the lower body independent of the upper body? Here's a good time to try the champagne glass trick. It's not a trick, it's a test, the champagne glass test. Could you hand it to a friend? That's our goal. Arms are still relaxed, upper body is still calm. We're breathing through a relaxed belly. Take a deep, intentional breath now. We're going to bring in some work. We're already at about 90 RPM with our pedal speed. So we're going to imagine that we're on a bike outside and we're going to shift 1 or 2 gears. Now bikes these days have the shifters up here, so I'm thinking of clicking a couple times here with my right hand while I hold this pedal speed. That would affect an increase in the speed of the bike, right? And would be harder work. That's what we're going to mimic right now. Reach down, add some resistance. It feels like you've added 1 to 2 gears. Hold your pedal speed. And now notice, where do you feel this work in the muscles of the legs? The breath is coming up, isn't it? Do you notice that? Mine is too. So at this moment, I feel some discomfort in the muscles of the legs, and I can very much feel the scraping motion through the bottom part of the pedal stroke in my calves and hamstrings. Close your eyes. Release the tension in the belly. Check your shoulders and neck right now. Let's see how present we can be for the next 30 seconds. Just tuning in to the rhythmic, beautiful, powerful pedal stroke. Go ahead, next 30 seconds are yours. Do you notice how the mind starts to wander, starts to think about things in the future or things in the past? Maybe you're craving me to say something during those quiet parts. That's good. It's good to notice that. Our minds are constantly grasping for something to hold on to. Usually it's a stressful thought. If we can be present in our bodies, in the movement, in the muscles, in the breath, we can reduce those stressful thoughts. And, by the way, get more out of our cycling because we're focusing on good form and really being present. Okay. We're going to add 1, 2 gears. Hold this pedal speed, and I want it to be a feeling. like you're moving along a flat road and you could not hold that pace for 10 minutes. That's the feeling we're going for as we hold this 90 RPM pedal speed. We'll hold it about a minute. But even after 1 minute, we're going to be quite out of breath and we will absolutely feel the big muscle engagement. Okay, set your intention. Now reaching down, add those gears, that resistance, and feel the work come into the legs. Almost immediately the breath comes up, doesn't it? Good, notice that. Now those of you that are new to RevoCycle, or just plain used to the fixed gear spin bike, I want you to right now focus on the feeling of the hips driving over the top part of the pedal stroke. The glutes engage, the lower back braces, and you feel it through the heel of your foot over the top. See if you can engage those. If you can, that means you're stitching together that beautiful full circle pedal stroke. Feel discomfort in the quads, calves, hamstrings, and glutes. That means we're applying power throughout the circle, which is our goal. Now, the most power, of course, comes in the 2 to 4 o'clock position on a clock face from the quads, for sure. The quads are an essential part of the pedal stroke. But as you can see, with my freewheel bike, I'm applying power all throughout the circle, and you can do that too on your bike. All right, slow your legs down and come back to light resistance. Let's check in with our breath. If you have a heart rate monitor, go ahead and check that now. Should be elevated 70% of your max or so, maybe a little bit higher. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, that's okay, because your breath is an indirect heart rate monitor. Your out of breathness is directly related to your heart rate relative to your maximum heart rate. They're fellow travelers. They go up and down together. So I don't wear a heart rate monitor because I've been doing this so long. I know from my breath where my heart rate is. You might also notice that I'm speaking very normally again, which is a measure of cardiovascular fitness. So always pay attention to your breath recovery too after a hard effort. Good. So we're moving along. Now I want to teach you about climbing and doing it mindfully and meditatively. So a climb, a hill on a bike is something that creates a little bit of fear, a little bit of doubt in our heads. Fear of maybe how hard it's going to be, doubt that we can finish the hill. And that's good for us as we're using a bike to get fit, to find that edge, to find that place where we're a little doubtful of our ability to withstand it. A little bit doubtful about our ability to get to the top of the hill. That's where the growth happens. That's the edge. So let's slow our legs down and add resistance so that we're in about 60, 65 RPM range. And it's now where you'll really feel those hips driving. So don't depend entirely on the quadriceps. Use all the muscles available to you. That's why the bike is built the way it is. Now I want to show you something. We've just started our climb. Slow, heavy. Already there's discomfort in the muscles of the legs. I want to show you something. You stay in your beautiful climbing position. Shoulders are relaxed, neck and spine aligned in a neutral fashion. Nice 10-foot gaze. Watch this. You see that twisting happening in my upper body? That's the torque I'm applying through the hips. I can literally feel my glutes contracting over the top of each pedal stroke. That's how heavy this is for me. Now when I come back to the handlebars, you can barely see that, but I can feel it in the pulsing of my hands on the handlebars. Now close your eyes. Breathe deeply from a relaxed belly, and let's just settle into this climbing, tuning into the muscles at work, noticing the breath and the heart rate. You notice the breath picking up? We're going to get ourselves to, 85% of our maximum heart rate, if you know what that is. If you don't, that just means your breath is at a point where you're speaking in just 2 or 3 words at a time, like I am. Now, look where my hands are. You may have noticed that they came towards the center of the bars. The reason I do that when I'm seated climbing is that gets my back into a more upright position. And when my back's in a more upright position, I can more effectively drive through the hips. So every hill I've ever climbed, I put my hands into this position. It's not very aerodynamic, but on a hill you're going slow. So the wind resistance is not huge. So you get more out of this position than you lose. If you're curious, you can do an experiment. Get yourself bent way over like this, and you'll notice that the glutes come out of the equation. And then when you come back up, you can get them engaged again. This is an excellent time right now to check in with your body position. Make sure your belly's relaxed. This is when it pays off to have a relaxed belly. Let that diaphragm expand to pull air into the lungs. Let's stay here about 10 more seconds. Now bring your resistance back down and let your legs just naturally come to a more rapid pedal stroke, maybe 80 RPM or so. And let's assess how you feeling. How's your breath? How many words can you say? What's your heart rate? How long could you have held that if you had to? For our purposes here in our RevoCycle classes, we define a hill as something we can hold for maybe 12 minutes or so. That's just an arbitrary definition of a hill that we use in RevoCycle, just trying to get everybody on the same page in terms of effort. So you see, I'm adjusting my resistance now. So it's light, but feels like I'm now back kind of moving with intention along a flat road. So I'm exercising again. Now, one last thing I want to teach you for today is standing, climbing on a bike. With a freewheel bike like the one I'm on, if I tried to stand up on this very light resistance I have right now, my body weight would just accelerate my pedals to the bottom. It wouldn't support me, and I'd have trouble pulling through just because I don't have something heavy to drive against. So on a bike outside or on my freewheel bike, we always stand up when the resistance is so heavy that we need our body weight to help drive the pedal stroke. You may not be used to that. A lot of times in spin class, you'll stand on light to no resistance and just simply fall to the bottom. The wheel pulls your leg around. Fall to the bottom, the wheel pulls your leg around. I want you to feel out today getting resistance so heavy that you can't pedal it in a seated position, and you have to stand up onto it. Just like you did when you were a kid, riding a bike. You know how to do this. Your body has done it before. Okay, so when we do this, we're going to slow our legs down to 60-something RPM again, and we're going to have massive resistance, and then ease out onto the pedals, keeping our hands relatively light on the handlebars. We don't want to lean onto the handlebars. I'll show you first, and then you can join me, okay? So I'm going to slow my legs down, add massive resistance that I can't really pedal seated anymore. Now look, I rise into it. See how light my hands are? And I'm throwing all of my weight through the glutes as I step into the pedal stroke. Go ahead and try it with me. We'll only do this for a short while, but I want you to feel your hands light, your chest is relatively high, and you're driving your weight through your glutes. Now, if you paid me $100, I could not hold this for 4 minutes. I could not. And that's where I want you. And 2, and 1. Bring your resistance back down to seated climbing. So uncomfortable, right? Heart rate is super high. And even though we're still climbing now, there is a bit of recovery that takes place from that extra hard effort of standing. And this was where we find ourselves, staying with this uncomfortable feeling. Learning to recognize that we can stay with it longer than we thought. My breath is recovering. I can speak more words. How's yours doing? Still that torque. Still that torque through the hips. All right, in 3. And 2. And 1. Let's come back to super light resistance. I want you to pedal super slowly and super softly. Just breathing deeply now from that relaxed belly. We're going to cool down by keeping our pedal stroke nice and slow with really light resistance. And we can use this time now to check in with our body position. Remember how this goes. Your neck into the spine, shoulders away from the ears. Elbows are slightly bent, hands nice and light and relaxed on the handlebars. Weight settled beautifully into the saddle, belly relaxed. So we've ridden about 30 minutes. I hope that went by quickly for you. If it did, that means you got into the moment, you were present for some of the time. That's good. That's our goal. Keep taking deep breaths. Reduce the resistance. Slow your legs, allowing the body to recover. If you're on your fixed gear spin bike, see if you can take out the last bit before it goes free on its own. And slow your legs down just a little bit more. And now, let's sit up as we keep the legs turning slowly. And this is a great practice because now we can feel the vertebra stacked. We can let our arms hang loose to the side. And now we're fully decoupling the pedal stroke from the upper body. And you should notice now your breath is nearly back to where it was at the start of class today. And let's let our legs slowly but surely come to a stop. And I tell you, this is the most important 15-20 seconds of our workout. Right now we sit still and close our eyes and we notice how good we feel. We pay attention to that reduction in stress compared to the start of class till now. Maybe notice that feeling of well-being or that aliveness. Maybe that buzz of energy in your body. Tune into that. All of this is what we call intrinsic rewards of exercise, and they're the most important by far. If you tune into these intrinsic rewards, you will build a lifetime habit of exercise because you come to value these rewards. And everything else is just a side effect then. You end up fit, you end up strong, you end up really good at cycling, but that's a side effect. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe to our channel. Please like the video. Please make a comment. We have a PayPal account. You can see that on the home channel page for any donation if you feel like making a donation. Thank you for being here for this ride. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. So long.